Hi everyone, Adam here. Welcome to the lesson on writing for the media. Again, we're in Unit 3. We're communicating the message of your organization outward to the world, and the media is a big way that we're able to do this. So get excited. We're going to teach you about press releases, including the style, how to format them, and actually what goes into making a great press release or the content. For those of you who are in class today, I shared that this happens to be my favorite lesson. I went to journalism school, and I know a lot about press releases, and consequently, last semester they had 5 videos to watch. We're going to try to cut that down for you because I like you. So let's get started. So the first question that you might be asking yourself is, why do I even need to learn how to write a press release? Nobody buys newspapers. And you would be right. That's a problem that newspapers have had for the past decade. And it doesn't look like it's getting any better for them. But I would tell you that the way that press releases are written in newswriting style is foundational to all types of communication with the broad public. All right. And so this is learning how to write a press release and organizing the information and pitching it to the public will be helpful for you in so many other formats, such as, blogging and on social media, even when you write your grant to a certain extent. So get excited for that. I did want to point out, and the Scholar site on the Unit 3 page, there's this interview. If you haven't watched it yet, it's about 20 minutes, and it's really interesting. If this is something that you are interested in, if you're interested in going into ag communication, this may be for you. This is my friend Shauna. She is the PR director at the National Cattlemen's Beef Council, and one of the things that she says is that even though they do a lot of work through social media, through their blog, through their internal website sort of publishing platforms, anytime that they have information to package and send out, it always gets written in a press release first. So let's learn how to do that. Let's go back to our PowerPoint here. So what are our objectives for the day? Here are the things that you should get. We want you to understand what makes a news story newsworthy. Not everything that you write in a press release is worth people's time. You need to figure out what is and what isn't. We want you to talk about the proper format for press releases. Again, because if you put it in the right format, people think you're credible. If you don't know how to do it in the right format, people think you don't know what you're doing. We want you to understand what the inverted pyramid is. So that's a sort of a core thing, hint, hint. And we want you to learn about writing compelling leads and summary paragraphs. These are the first sections of a press release. And then how to use quotes effectively and properly. And then finally, just understand the rest of the news story and how it's formatted. So let's get started. So what is a news release? So a news release, a media release, a press statement, these are all more or less synonymous statements. I tend to go back and forth. I generally call it a press release. But it's a tool that's commonly used in public relations. You guys working for your organization, communicating the message of your organization outward, are engaged in public relations. You may not think of yourself that way, but you're communicating to the public. So you are by definition engaged in public relations. Sorry, welcome to the dark side. All right, but the good news is that it's written exactly like a news story. Hopefully, raise your hand if you've read a newspaper before. Excellent. So this is the thing that there are plenty of examples of to get, hold on. So whenever you write your press release to send it to the media, you will typically email, fax, mail it to the editor. Some of them may have an online process for submitting it, but you send it off to the media. All right. Now there are 3 things. There are 3 things that can happen whenever you write your press release and send it off to the media. It can be ran verbatim, all right? They can take it, they can read it, they can say, this is fantastic stuff, and they just slap it in the paper, or they slap it up on their website, and it's done. You probably won't get the byline. They'll probably be like, some staff person wrote this, even if they didn't. That's your job. That's a thing. That doesn't ordinarily happen. A second thing that can happen is that it can be picked up by a reporter. They can read it and they can say, you know what, this is kind of an interesting story that this person has pitched to me, but I'm going to go and do my own reporting. I'm going to interview people. I'm going to take my own photos. I'm going to write my own story. But you still sort of succeeded because you've drawn interest to whatever your topic is. The third thing that can happen is nothing. And this will most often be the thing that happens. And so what happens when you write a press release that doesn't go anywhere is that you self-publish it. And I wanted to show you all. This is the press room for Southern States, a totally respectable company, but they have, what they do whenever, sometimes these things may be published and they still publish them here as well. But anytime that they write a press release about something that happens, this is where it goes on their website. And so they're essentially self-publishing here, right? So we've got one: buy an FFA emblem at a Southern States co-op store, support FFA. Southern States wins big at ARA conference and expo. So these are all press releases that some person had to write that promote this company. All right. And so a newspaper person may come here, gather up this information, and make a story out of it. It may not go any further than here. Or they may take this information that's in this press release and put it in their blog and package it here. So these are all things that you can do. Here's the press room for the National Wildlife Federation. These are things that have, that they've tried to publish or whatnot and written so that people can get information about their thing. So just wanted to show you that that is a thing that can happen. All right, let's go back here. Boom. All right, so let's talk a brief moment about the history of the press release, because it's kind of important to know where it came from. So the very first press release happened in 1906 as a result of the Atlantic City train wreck, which was, a really atrocious, big news event. If you can imagine, back in the day, people were, it was much easier to control information in 1906 than it is now. And so people would, if a train wreck happened, they would try to keep it out of the press. And so when this time it happened, this guy named Ivy Ledbetter Lee said, you know what, we can probably do better for our organization if we engage with the media, the press, and attempt to write the narrative ourselves. And so what he did was he issued the very first press release to journalists. And basically what he did was he wrote the newspaper story for them. And some of them took it and just ran it verbatim. Some of them took it and read it and said, I need to follow up on this and do more. But that was the very first time that somebody had had the idea of attempting to control what went into the newspaper. And so that, it for better or worse, his take on it was that he was fostering open communication with the media. More cynical people might say he was trying to control the message. I think probably both would be correct. I also have other fascinating facts about Ivy Ledbetter Lee, including that he married a woman named Cornelia Bigelow, which is a fantastic name. He also established the first PR house in America in 1905, Parker and Lee. So with the motto of accuracy, authenticity, and interest, probably wouldn't find anything that noble today. So how did they help? Why are they beneficial to you all? Why is it important? And so if you're looking at external audiences, some things that press releases can do is they can create awareness and understanding. They can elicit support. They can demonstrate relevance and legitimacy. Okay. And so the last two are kind of what I want to talk about. Relevance is that if you make it into the paper, people automatically give you some credence, right? They're like, oh, this person's in the paper or on the newspaper's website. This must be a thing that's important. And this is called actually agenda setting theory. Not that you need to know that, but it's the theory that the media tells us not what to think, but what to think about. Unless you watch certain stations, and then they actually tell you what to think. But anyway, it also demonstrates legitimacy, right? It's third-party credibility. If you publish a press release on your website and say, look how great we are, people are going to take that with a grain of salt. If you send that press release to the media and then they write it and say, look how great this organization is, all of a sudden people sit up and say, oh, wow, they must be pretty great because it's in the paper. So fascinating. On the internal audiences, one of the things it can do is it can generate clear communication with your stakeholders. So imagine, the Southern States stakeholders may go read the press room and sort of, get a sense of where the organization is going, through the messages that they're communicating in those press releases. Great. When we come back in the next video, we're going to talk about the nature of news writing, and then I think in the third video, we're going to talk about the actual mechanical parts to writing a press release. Thanks for listening. I know you're